Good morning, and thank you for being here. This is the Philadelphia DAO weekly press conference. Usually we do them on Mondays. Obviously, with a three-day weekend, this week is a little bit different. We are here, though, for the usual two topics. The first is an update on gun violence over the past week-long period, or periods. And the second today is a special topic. That topic has to do with the reality that people who are engaging in the illegal possession of that has to do with the fact that people who are engaging in the illegal possession of guns, people who are engaging in illegal drug trafficking, are facing some pretty serious consequences. We will be talking about a particular case, and that case involves a defendant by the name of Raheem Hutchinson, also known as Rax. There has been an ongoing feud between two different groups in Philadelphia. Mr. Hutchinson is a known member of the South Side Stizzy group, a group that congregates around 56 and Market. This group has been involved in a feud with two other groups that are known as North Side. And one of them is known as 0-4. And that's because they operate between 60th and Lansdowne and 64th and Callow Hill Streets. There has been a battle going back and forth between these two groups. Well, I have some news for 0-4. How do you like 6-15? Raheem Hutchinson is facing an aggregate sentence of incarceration of 6 to 15 years in state prison. What that means is he will not be considered for parole until he reaches 6 years, and he will not be paroled until the parole board believes it is safe and appropriate for him to be out under supervision in society. And I got some news for Southside Stizzy, too. Do you like jail? Do you want to go to jail? Because we have that for you. And Philadelphia also has constructive options and a way for you to get out of this kind of activity and have a happy life. But if you like to go to jail, we have jail for you. And in the case of Rax, it looks like 6 to 15 years at a minimum. I want to acknowledge some of the people who are here to discuss these important topics. We have with us First Assistant DA Carolyn Engel-Temin, First Assistant DA Robert Listenby. We have Assistant DA Jeffrey Palmer, who is one of the chiefs of our DAO's Gun Violence Task Force, and who personally handled the matter involving Raheem Hutchinson. We also have the Reverend Myra Maxwell, who is the Executive Director of our DAO Victim Support Services Division. I'm going to turn briefly to talk about some of the data for the last week, and I'll try to be very specific as to the dates. As of the end of day yesterday, meaning just before midnight, there were 245 homicides in Philadelphia year to date. Last year that was 260. This is a decrease of 15 homicides, and it's a decrease of 6% overall. Obviously, there is no good news in 245 homicides, and we are all very hopeful that we're going to see further improvements in these numbers. It does nevertheless represent a decrease of 6% over last year. If we look at the period of June the 11th through June the 17th, which is the ordinary way we count these weeks, the prior weekend plus through Friday, there were 8 homicides and 31 non-fatal shootings. That is slightly better than what we've seen during most of the pandemic, meaning we usually have 1.5 per day on average, about 10.5 per week. 8 is a terrible number, but it is slightly less than that number of 10.5. During the period June 11th through June 17, there were 135 gun-related incidents in which police became involved. Those include both violent crimes committed with guns and possession of a gun. Of those 135 gun-related incidents, there were 84 arrests made by law enforcement. Of the 84 arrests that were brought to the DA's office by law enforcement, where they requested charging, we charged 83 of those cases. The median bail set for illegal possession of guns on my data continues to be low, in my view. These are cases where, in the vast majority, we are asking for $1 short of $1 million. And the average bail was $200,000. The median bail set for violent offenses with guns. These are cases where we almost, in every single case, asked for $1 million or more. That bail was set at $250,000. Cash bail continues to fail us. When we look at some of the gun violence incidents that have occurred recently, I'm just going to focus on three in particular. The first was a homicide that occurred on Saturday, the 18th of June, in the 200 block of South 38th Street in the 18th Police District at about 4:10 in the morning. A 25-year-old Asian male by the name of John Albert Lilo was shot once in the back of the head. He was transported by Penn Police to Presbyterian Hospital. He later succumbed to his injuries. This is a homicide. No arrest has been made by PPD. This investigation remains ongoing. And anyone with information should contact PPD's Shooting Investigation Group at 215-686-8270. I should tell you that our CARES unit has responded to that family. Our CARES unit director, Melanie Nelson, who works under the authority of Myra Maxwell, has specifically made outreach to the family of that victim. And I also want you to know, as we often do, we have been in direct communication with the head of the Shooting Investigation Group, Captain Johnny Walker, and discussed the investigation. I know that the Philadelphia Police Department are working as hard as they possibly can with the resources they have to try to solve this crime, and we are asking people with information to come forward. Second shooting incident was a double shooting that occurred on Tuesday, June the 21st of 2022 in the 900 block of Anchor Street in the 2nd Police District at about 9:46 p.m. A 55-year-old black female was shot once in the neck. She was transported by medics to Albert Einstein in stable condition. Victim number 2 is a 34-year-old black male with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the right calf. He was transported by medic to Albert Einstein Medical Center in stable condition. An arrest has been made by PPD and a weapon was recovered. However, this investigation remains ongoing. Anyone with info should contact PPD's Shooting Investigation Group at 215-686-8270. Victim number 2 was identified as the offender in this incident. He has been identified as Troy Corbett, C-O-R-B-I-T. Birth date, July the 31st of 1987. DAO is charging him, but he has not yet been arraigned, which we expect to happen in the next several hours. Now, it is my pleasure and my honor to call forward the Reverend Myra Maxwell, who's the Executive Director of the DAO's Victim Support Services Division. She will be reporting on the number of families who have been served by the CARES unit. She may have some further comment in relation, for example, to work that has been done with reference to the killing of Mr. Lalo. And after we have heard from Reverend Myra Maxwell, I will be back to introduce Jeff Palmer.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, D.A. Krasner. First, I'd like to give you the report for the numbers of families that our CARES unit serviced through 6/11 to 6/17. Our CARES unit provided direct support to 6 families during that week, providing 18+ services to those families. We encourage anyone who has been impacted by any crime in Philadelphia that you can reach out to the District Attorney's Office at davictimservices@phila.gov, or you can reach us by phone at 215-686-8027. I want to reiterate that our CARES unit provides support to all of our homicide families in the city of Philadelphia. So we work directly with those families to provide any additional supports and services for them as needed. This is a voluntary program. People do not have to accept services. That is their right. So we want to make sure that we're protecting the rights of all victims. I cannot speak about any victims that we service directly. We cannot do that. There are confidentiality issues. So we do not discuss who we service, but we are providing and we do reach out to all of those families impacted. If there are other families that are impacted by any shootings or any other types of crime in Philadelphia, we also are available to make sure that we are referring them to the organizations specific to their needs. So you can reach us again, and I will give that number at davictimservices@phila.gov or 215-686-8027. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Maxwell. I do want to point out that as we're down here doing this work, upstairs there is a large gathering of victim advocates and victim advocacy groups who are doing what we do all the time, which is to work on how we can do more and how we can do it better in ways that are actually healing and address people's trauma. So that work goes on, and thank you for that. Jeff Palmer is an assistant DA in this office who works with the Gun Violence Task Force. The Gun Violence Task Force is a somewhat unique unit in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's a collaboration between the Attorney General's agents and the attorneys in the DA's office, and that collaboration, which has gone on for close to 15 years, has once again borne some fruit. We have some pretty good results. I'm going to invite ADA Jeff Palmer to come forward to talk about his work as a member of the Gun Violence Task Force in relation to the prosecution of Raheem Hutchinson.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for being here. I am ADA Jeff Palmer in the Gun Violence Task Force, and I just want to highlight some of the work that on this case that I did, but also that the other assistant district attorneys in the Gun Violence Task Force are doing every day to hold some of the most dangerous offenders in Philadelphia accountable for their involvement with illegal firearms. In this case, Raheem Hutchinson, a member of the Southside Stizzy Gang, which, as the district attorney said, associates with the area around the corner of 56th and Market, and is currently in a violent feud with a gang known as Northside that congregates just 4 blocks away at 60th and Market, as well as another group called O to the 4, which operates a little bit northwest of them in the 19th district. Mr. Hutchinson is a member of that group. He was stopped by police in the 18th district, fleeing them. In the process of fleeing them, Mr. Hutchinson attempted to discard a firearm loaded with an extended magazine, and the car that he fled from was also held for a search warrant. It was searched, and when that car was searched, a decent quantity of fentanyl as well as methamphetamine and cocaine base were recovered from that vehicle. As a result, Mr. Hutchinson was found guilty at trial of possessing with intent to deliver fentanyl, as well as the illegal possession of that firearm with the extended magazine. Mr. Hutchinson, as the district attorney said, has now received a state sentence of 6 to 15 years of state incarceration. We're very thankful to the court for recognizing the danger that Mr. Hutchinson poses to the people of West Philadelphia and other communities in Philadelphia, somebody who has no qualms about carrying illegal firearms, somebody that made it clear to the court that they don't use illegal fentanyl themselves, but they have no qualms about taking advantage of citizens who are struggling with addiction in this community and giving that to them, even though he himself thinks that he's above it. And also, this represents the type of collaboration that the Gun Violence Task Force and other assistant district attorneys in the district attorney's office are doing with the police department every day. Early in this case, right after the arrest, we immediately made contact with the assigned detective. We worked with the assigned detective from the day that Mr. Hutchinson was arrested until the day that he was sentenced to make sure that this case would result in the result that we got, which is a very appropriate result. This case also shows that if you want to carry an illegal firearm in this city and you want to associate with any of the dangerous groups in Southwest and West Philadelphia, and that means I'm talking about 524, I'm talking about YBC, the Young Bag Chasers, I'm talking about Southside, I'm talking about Northside, O to the 4, 60K, the Fixers, 56th Street, 46th Street. If you want to associate with those groups and you want to carry an illegal firearm in West Philadelphia, then you can join Mr. Hutchinson in state prison because we're going to hold you accountable. The Gun Violence Task Force is handling members of these groups every single day and members of dangerous groups in other parts of the city every single day. We are holding them accountable, and that will continue to happen because the courts and the district attorney's office recognize that members of these groups do not put our communities in danger every single day, so we will continue to hold them accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. So let's just talk about the reality of what is about to happen to Mr. Raheem Hutchinson, because a lot of gun violence is driven by falsehoods, mythology, invented ideas. A lot of young men in particular gravitate towards groups with the notion that somehow this is a new family, or this is a family connection that they have not felt in other ways, or that these other people with whom they associate have their back. No, they don't. What's about to happen to Mr. Hutchinson is he is about to leave the city of Philadelphia for a very long time. He is about to live in state prisons, wherever the state prison system puts him. It may be 6 hours away, it may be 2 hours away, but it will be far away. All those members of a group who he thought were his brothers will not visit him. They will not put money on his books after about 15 minutes from now. They will not remember him. The good news for Mr. Hutchinson is that he will be alive when he gets out somewhere between 6 and 15 years from now. And the good news for the community is that Mr. Hutchinson will not endanger them for the next 6 to 15 years before he gets out. But Mr. Hutchinson is about to find something out that other members of these groups should find out right now. They're not your friends. They don't have your back. They won't cover for you. They're not your family. You are being used. And if that's what you want, then we got a jail cell for you, because that's the opportunity we have. On the other hand, through the gun violence intervention program that exists in Philadelphia, we are reaching out to groups all the time. Philadelphia Police, Probation Department, the DA's office, city services are reaching out to groups all the time through members who are currently on supervision, and we are offering them a way away from that life, whether it is in a cemetery or it's in a penitentiary. We're offering them a way away from that life, and they have a choice. They can accept opportunities for education. They can accept opportunities for job training. They can accept jobs. They can accept help in the ways that they need it, whatever those ways may be, as a pathway away from this. Or they can get what Raheem Hutchinson just got, which is locked up. Are there any questions?
Mr. Hutchinson was arrested. Sure. Mr. Hutchinson was arrested on April 6th of 2021.
And are the feuds still going between his groups and the others? And do you know like how many kind of shootings in that area have been associated with them?
Sure. In the last 2 years, we've had over 50 victims. So some of those are multiple victims of one shooting. Some of those victims thankfully survived and some did not. But in this ongoing feud in West and Southwest Philadelphia, we've had over 50 victims as a result.
And that's between those three groups, the Southside City?
Well, it includes all of the groups that the longer list that I gave. I can give that list again if you need me to.
And then we're almost 6 months into 2022. Shootings are up, but homicides are down. Can you talk a little bit about what's associated with that trend, why shootings are up, and why homicides are still down?
I don't have a specific theory as to that particular pattern. Obviously we've seen ups and downs with shootings, ups and downs with homicides this year. We see them week to week. What I can tell you is that the solution here is something we've known about for a long time, which is a profound investment in prevention combined with a profound investment in modern law enforcement techniques, including things like forensics. I am hopeful that the message is finally getting through in some ways. But I'll tell you something, I think one of the more important things that happened in terms of gun violence this week, one of many, but one of the more important things that happened was the announcement by the city of Philadelphia that they will be opening 50 swimming pools. That's a big deal. Make no mistake. In hot months, when young people have things to do that are constructive, that makes a big difference. Excuse me one second. Sorry. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much.